Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to embark on a rather extraordinary journey together, one that explores the very future of civilizational memory. You see, throughout history, from the clay tablets of ancient Mesopotamia to the ink-stained parchment of the Renaissance, humanity has always sought to immortalize its existence, to leave a permanent mark upon the world. And today, well, we exist in the digital age, a time of unprecedented knowledge creation. Yet, as we're going to discover, our modern methods of preservation are alarmingly fragile. So I invite you to settle in as we examine a true technological marvel. It's a breakthrough that promises to bridge our present moment with the distant future, elegantly solving one of the most pressing dilemmas of our time.
Now, to really appreciate exactly where we're going, we first need to ponder the rather ephemeral nature of our current digital memory. Humanity is facing what researchers ominously call the zettabyte crisis. To give you a sense of scale here, a single zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes. If you were to store 1 zettabyte on high-capacity hard drives, you'd need roughly 50 million of them. 50 million! We're generating data at a staggering, almost incomprehensible scale. Yet the mediums we use to hold on to our most precious information are fundamentally fleeting. As Richard Black of Microsoft's project Silica so astutely points out, our media simply wears out. It's a quiet marvel, really, that in an age of such profound technological advancement, our collective digital heritage remains so precariously fragile, resting on drives and tapes designed to ultimately fail.
And so, we are faced with a rather grand, almost philosophical puzzle, aren't we? How do we preserve the memory of a civilization for 10 millennia without costing the Earth? 10,000 years is a profoundly vast expanse of time. To put it in perspective, 10 millennia ago, humanity was just experiencing the dawn of agriculture. We are talking about safeguarding our digital essence for our descendants 100 centuries from now. It's a sustainable quest of the highest order, requiring a medium that's both enduring and incredibly responsible. So let's dive right into this and see exactly how brilliant minds are attempting to solve it.
Section 1. The Ephemeral Digital Archive.
Consider for a moment the sheer disparity of our current options. The current gold standard for cold archival storage, the method used by massive data centers all over the world, is magnetic tape. Yet, much like fading parchment, it requires highly controlled environments. Tape demands constant, energy-intensive copying every 5 to 10 years just to prevent bit rot. That's the silent, latent failure where microscopic magnetic charges flip and corrupt the data. Tape libraries are these massive, moving, mechanical beasts requiring continuous maintenance. But contrast that with quartz glass. Here is a medium with a stone-like endurance, capable of safeguarding data for over 10,000 years without breaking a single sweat. It's a staggering juxtaposition, really. The fleeting, high-maintenance present, measured against an indestructible, remarkably quiet future.
Moving on to Section 2, an elegant glass solution.
At the very heart of this elegant solution lies a rather brilliant microscopic concept. Let's define it clearly: a voxel. Now, you might be familiar with a pixel on your television screen, right? Well, think of a voxel as a three-dimensional volume pixel. Instead of storing data magnetically on a vulnerable surface, Project Silica uses these voxels to permanently encode data deep inside the physical internal structure of ordinary borosilica-infused silica glass. It's a permanent, physical modification, akin to carving an indelible monument. But to truly appreciate this, you have to imagine a monument carved on a scale vastly smaller than the width of a human hair or a single grain of sand.
Which brings us to Section 3, forging data with lasers.
Now take a look at this microscopic view of a single voxel's intricate nanograding structure. You might be wondering, how exactly does one carve into glass without, shattering it into 1,000 tiny pieces? The answer lies in ultra-fast femtosecond lasers. These lasers emit pulses that last 1/4,000,000th of a second. Let that settle in for just a moment. 1/4,000,000th of a second. The laser pulse is so unimaginably rapid that the energy is absorbed by the glass, creating a localized microscopic plasma that permanently alters the silica structure before the heat even has a chance to escape and crack the surrounding material. It's an absolutely magnificent intersection of cutting-edge optics and quantum physics. Let's shift our perspective here to see how this builds upon our understanding of capacity. What we're witnessing is a fundamental paradigm shift from two-dimensional surface storage, like your typical CD or hard drive, to true volumetric data density. By delicately modulating the polarization and the energy of the laser, scientists can stack over 100 separate layers of these data-rich voxels within a single piece of glass that's a mere 2 millimeters thick. It leverages the full three-dimensional depth of the material, achieving volumetric data densities that comfortably rival and could eventually far surpass our very best magnetic tapes.
Of course, writing the data is only half the gentleman's wager. One must also be able to read it back. And the retrieval process is wonderfully elegant and, crucially, completely non-destructive. First, polarized light is shined directly through the glass. Second, optical microscopes measure a property called retardance, which is simply a sophisticated way of saying they measure how the glass physically delays or shifts the phase of the light passing through it. Finally, advanced machine learning swoops in as the ultimate translator, instantly decoding these minute visual light patterns back into the original ones and zeros of digital data. It's a seamless, beautiful marriage of physical optics and modern artificial intelligence.
Let's transition to Section 4, Surviving the Elements. Once written, this glass becomes what's called a write once, read many, or W-warm medium. And I present to you the rather extreme tortures this medium can casually brush off. Boiling it in hot water? Not a problem. Baking it at 500 degrees in a conventional oven? It survives entirely intact. It's completely impervious to flooding, immune to the devastating effects of electromagnetic pulses, and you can even scour the surface with a brace of steel wool. You could even place it in a microwave, though one does have to wonder why on earth you'd be making tea with a priceless piece of human history. But the point stands. The data remains pristine. It possesses a natural, almost geological resistance to tampering and decay.
So, the crucial takeaway here is that this is not merely theoretical posturing in a laboratory. In a triumphant proof of concept, Microsoft partnered with Warner Brothers to immortalize a true cinematic treasure. The entire 1978 film Superman, comprising 75.6 gigabytes of data, was successfully written into and flawlessly read back from a piece of quartz glass roughly the size of a drink coaster. Why Hollywood, you ask? Well, film archives face immense storage challenges, grappling with massive analog footprints and degrading cellulose that threatens to literally erase our cinematic history. A coaster-sized pane of glass proved to be a wonderfully fitting, permanent medium for the Man of Steel.
The applications for such enduring memory are vast and culturally profound. Consider the global music vault, located deep in the Arctic of Svalbard, Norway. Svalbard was chosen because its permafrost acts as a natural geological failsafe against disaster, and they are actively exploring this very glass technology to archive humanity's musical heritage. Thanks to these resilient slivers of silica, the great symphonies, historical acoustic recordings, and the wonderfully diverse musical legacy of our entire species can play on. They can be safely entombed in the ice, beautifully preserved for the next 10 millennia, waiting patiently for whoever or whatever might find them.
Finally, Section 5, a sustainable digital legacy.
0. That is the exact amount of passive energy required to maintain data on this glass. To truly appreciate the weight of that 0, we must acknowledge that current data centers consume roughly 1 to 2% of all global electricity. Traditional server farms and tape libraries demand vast, relentless amounts of power for roaring air conditioning units, moisture control, and endless data migration. A glass archive, however, requires absolutely nothing once the data is written. It simply sits on a shelf at room temperature, quietly retaining its vast knowledge, entirely freed from the relentless carbon-heavy demands of power and cooling.
This brilliant lack of energy consumption frames this innovation as a vital cornerstone for broader environmental goals. The cloud infrastructure that powers our daily lives is largely unseen, yet its impact on our planet is immense. Passive, zero-energy glass storage directly aligns with sweeping sustainability pledges, such as Microsoft's ambitious commitment to becoming a carbon-negative company by the year 2030. By finally ending the wasteful cycle of media obsolescence, where we continually mine, manufacture, power, and inevitably dispose of degrading storage drives, we take a magnificent, incredibly necessary step toward a truly sustainable digital future.
We've journeyed quite a distance today, haven't we? Moving from the fragile, energy-hungry limitations of magnetic tape to the indestructible, brilliantly elegant promise of a 10,000-year glass archive. It's a technology that forces us to step back, to think far beyond the meager span of our own lifetimes, and to seriously consider the enduring future of human knowledge. So I'll leave you with a lingering philosophical thought to ponder. If you were handed a simple, perfectly clear, coaster-sized piece of this extraordinary glass, what single piece of data would you choose to etch into it for the next 10 millennia? Thank you so much for exploring with me today. Keep asking brilliant questions, and I look forward to guiding you through our next explainer.